And good morning, everyone. Welcome to Forging the Falcons. Let me bring my Facebook groups in here too. I started doing this a little different, kind of like we do on Mile High Huddle, just to see if we can't get them to come in a little later and still add them to the show. So, welcome in, everyone. This is Forging the Falcons. And what better way to talk about Forging the Falcons than during the week of the NFL Combine? I'm Scott Kennedy, your host. This is my co-host and friend, Nick Kendall. We're going to talk a little bit about the NFL Combine, the Atlanta Falcons, and some of the players and teams around that area where they could pick. I did a mock draft last night that was an absolute dream. Could never happen. I'll show you my results on that one. It's like, yeah, this is why I don't like doing mock drafts. They actually get your hopes up. I'll show you that one. We'll talk about how those guys would fit needs, et cetera, et cetera. And we're going to go about 45 minutes today because I have to get out of here at 10:15 Eastern to make sure the wheels don't fall off my car. So we're going to do that today. Nick, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing pretty well. I'm having very serious envy and jealousy and nostalgia all at once. Chad sent me to the Combine 3 times previously when I was much closer in eastern Iowa. That's an easy drive. You just have to drive across Illinois and half of Indiana to get there. And I could stay with my sister who was in Indianapolis for a bit. So not being there, seeing people out and about, sending pictures, talking to some people there, it's like, God, I wish I was in Indy right now. You won't hear me say that often.
Yeah.
But it's a fun
yeah,
time.
you enjoy the networking aspect of things where I am the one that you won't even see there.
Yeah.
I'll be the one in the corner, in the shadows by myself with a notepad and a stopwatch and a video camera. So being that you can't do that so much and all that stuff's televised here, that I don't miss that.
Yeah.
I'm not the one that goes for the social aspects and the networking and the inside information stuff. I'm just a player rat. I like to see the players, etc. That, and I'm socially awkward and don't drink and all that kind of stuff. So I want to say good morning to some folks in the chat that came in. And Roger Cook hit me up on Twitter already this morning. I know he's ready to talk some Falcons. Good morning. And EJ is here, and Brian Dunn comes in as well. And I like what he has to say also. He goes, I know it's been said before, but it's interesting the Broncos and Falcons have so many of the same needs. It's really been crazy this year, Brian, that Nick and I, an Atlanta sports guy and a Denver Broncos sports guy, and the intertwining that's been happening this year, it's been really pretty easy to do without forcing it. It's like, oh, that's a Falcons guy. Well, they're 8-9. Their records were identical. Their needs are similar, etc. There's so many different things. That said, I'd much rather have the Broncos roster and cap space than the Atlanta Falcons are in a better spot. But that's why the Falcons have a second-year coach and the Broncos have a new coach.
Yeah, I think the big difference between the Broncos and the Falcons have obviously a better quarterback, but Broncos probably, well, the Broncos pass rush and front seven was not very good, better than the Falcons, and the Broncos offensive line, definitely better than the Falcons. I know Broncos fans freak out about the offensive line, but I don't think enough people watch other football games to understand what truly bad offensive lines look like. Sorry, Falcons. I think you guys know, though. I don't have to apologize.
I've said before, it's hard to talk down to a Falcons fan because you can't hurt us any worse than our team has hurt us. You can't do it. We'll get fired up every once in a while if we see some things that aren't fair. And if you keep pointing out 28-3, yeah, we know 28-3 enough. We know. If you keep doing that, you might get into our skins a little bit. But it's like, yeah, we've been Falcons fans for however long, 40 something years in my case. Yeah. You're not going to hurt me by telling us we aren't good. Yeah. I know.
Yep.
Jeremy Sean coming in. Good morning, Jeremy. Albert Knopper's coming in. Luke Wright, love the jersey, Scott. This one is actually, Luke, this one's actually a zip up. This is kind of cool. It's a little jacket. It's still a little cold in my office this morning. And the jersey is underneath because it is game day. It's match day. A little FA Cup action, which is a lot of fun. And Dave coming in with a super. Hey, thanks for making my offseason shorter, guys. Dave, thank you. You've been with us from the very beginning as we've started doing this and started to grow the show. So we certainly appreciate it. And speaking of being with us from the very beginning, I want to get a sponsor here, sort of. Share screen. Did I get rid of that picture? Share a sponsor here. Ryan Kennedy Homes, realtor in North Metro Atlanta. If you are interested in selling or have been interested in moving to the North Metro Atlanta area, It is the absolute best time to do it. I'm an Atlanta resident most of my life. I've never seen the real estate market like it. It is a great time to sell. And if you are looking to move to this area, like hordes of people are doing right now, you're going to want somebody that knows the market. Milton, Alpharetta, Johns Creek, Dunwoody, Sandy Springs, all of these places, Ryan Kennedy Homes is your place. So hit it up, Ryan Kennedy Homes. It's Ryan with two N's, but you can also do it with one because just to make sure you get to the right place. You see your phone number, a very nice person on there, and yeah, we are related. That's my wife. So let's get started. Good morning, James. Appreciate you being here as well. Let's get into the combine and some of the comments that we heard yesterday. So, Arthur Smith and Terry Fontenot kind of left the door open for Matt Ryan to be moved. They had done that before. They said that they had done that before, so that's not really new news. But when asked if they were reloading or rebuilding, Terry Fontenot kind of wanted to say both. We want both. We know we're not real good, but we're not ready to throw in the towel just yet. So, what are your thoughts on that, Nick?
Well, I immediately get PTSD when I hear that, because that is what the Broncos tried to sell the fan base for the past 6 seasons. We're still competitive. We're looking to We're not looking to rebuild. We're looking to reload. Ugh, man, it doesn't. I don't think it works that way in the NFL. I think that you have to know where you are in your competition window and fully commit. There is no half in or half out. Either bottom out, blow up the roster, try to get the finances as good as possible, get the young guys out there, and guess what? If some of them swim, that's awesome. Keep them. If they sink, well, you learned something along the way. So this half in, half out, I know it's a PR front because you can't come out there. Like, a lot of fans would be beside themselves. Not a lot of people honestly want the truth, right? They lie to me. I want to believe, if you're telling me that we're going to be bad, that's going to upset me. I personally am not of that cloth or that ilk. I want you to tell me the truth and let your actions speak louder than words. So the half in, half out thing, I get it's PR, but I do not fully buy it. And if they do this half in, half out, you're going to be in this spot again the next 3-4 years, unless you hit on a crazy good quarterback and have a good stroke of luck.
Yeah, and Ethan coming in saying good morning. Appreciate you being here. Dave coming in. Is this a new start time? Yes, we are going to start at 9:30 moving forward, and especially today because I have to leave at 10:15. So we'll go about another 30 minutes, and I've got to get out of here to make an appointment with my car.
Also, we're going to be live Friday.
Jeremy talking about the picture of my realtor wife. That wasn't an advertisement. That was a brag. EJ, she went to Duke too. So yes, that's the brag. She's pretty and puts up with me and smart. Yeah. Married above your head. It makes you want to be a better man, for sure. So Nick, I actually got into a conversation yesterday because I was looking at some of the Colts stuff as well. And, they're moving on from Carson Wentz, and Ian Rappaport had a report that said that they're looking to swing big. So would Matt Ryan be an option? And if he was, would you take a second rounder? Because they don't have a first. Would you take a second rounder? And I posted that question on my Falcons, All Falcons ATL. And I was actually surprised at the support that Matt Ryan had and the fact that people were saying, no way do we take a second rounder. What are your thoughts?
I think it needs to be a 2 and a conditional pick in the future, dependent on team success, kind of like the Carson Wentz deal that just happened.
All right, what if they want to get rid of him anyway? They might dump him. What if we said Carson Wentz and a second round pick?
Carson Wentz's contract is absolutely terrible. I think, again, this is me. I'd rather bottom out. If you're moving on from Matt Ryan, this roster is hollow. What are you doing adding Carson Wentz besides maybe taking you from a top 3 pick to a top 5 pick? I would rather play a youth guy and get an additional pick in 2023 based on the competency of the Colts. Like, I think you put Matt Ryan on that Colts team, you're talking about a team that probably is making the playoffs. I mean, the AFC is so loaded right now.
They were in the playoffs last year before they choked away the last 2 games. I mean, they were 9-7, where 10 wins is going to get you in. Or I'm sorry, they were 9-6.
Yeah.
Where 2 wins is going to get you. 1 win is going to get you in. They lost to Jacksonville and they lost to the Raiders at home.
Yep. Bad. Carson Wentz, terrible. I I also think DWI guys makes a great point here. Hello, Ethan. Good morning to you. Hope you're doing well. Been thinking about you since you shared the information yesterday about your wife. But anyway, Ethan, good to see you. I think you're right here. Wentz is probably going to get cut. Wentz's contract is horrible. Also, you're talking about a team looking to rebuild. I don't know Wentz personally. I've not talked to anybody in the Colts organization or the Eagles organization. Something stinks. I don't know if it's his personality.
Mhm.
I mean, if he can't get it right with Frank Reich and they're looking to cut bait after 1 year after what they paid to obtain him, something's wrong. Something is off. So I he does not scream at all as somebody who I'm looking to establish a culture, get things rolling in the right direction, even if you are losing. I think it could get worse if you bring in somebody like Wentz, given all the stuff going around there. So I'd rather get an additional pick. And a 2 in itself from the Colts, probably not enough. A 2 and a 2023 conditional pick, that could be a third all the way to like a 1 or a 2 to a 4. That interests me more. You can spread that return out a little bit, and that's what the Falcons probably need.
And good morning, Todd. Looking forward to seeing you this weekend. We had our first baseball scrimmages with his son and my son play baseball together, and they're both
Yeah.
pretty beastly, to be honest with you.
Yep.
And I say that biased. Just because I'm biased doesn't mean I'm wrong.
Yeah.
So, all right. Again, you know much of the fact that I am a cynical SOB when it comes to my sports team. So I look at this Falcons roster and I just go, good God, what good is Matt Ryan gonna do you when it's going to take 2 or 3 years at the minimum to build a competitive team? And by then he's 40,
Yeah.
and that's depending on what you're going to. So I'm like, all right, what can you get for him now? Take the dead cap hit and invest that. And next year at 2023, without Matt Ryan, you're getting CJ Stroud, Will Anderson. You're getting CJ Stroud or Bryce Young. You're getting one of those two guys because you're going to have the second best, worst record in the league. I'm convinced.
Yeah. Yep,
So
it's, I've always heard this is something that stuck with me, but it's really true. And I try to take this in life with any tasks that are handed my way. But what should be done eventually must be done immediately. And you're just delaying the inevitable. And you're 100% right.
yeah,
This roster
it's
just doesn't have the
that's
talent.
kind of how I look at it. And they're like, "Well, this team, you trade Matt." He's like, "What? Why would you get rid of him?" I'm like, "Well, I'll give you 50 million reasons why, because I've given up on this group of players for the most part because there isn't a group of players. It's Kyle Pitts and AJ Terrell. Matt Ryan. This team, I don't see them being good enough. So this is why, because I can get 8 million in relief now. Maybe I bring in a Teddy Bridgewater type or whoever. Somebody's going to get to beat the hell behind this line for the next year. And then I've got 46 million in available space that I don't have to pay Matt Ryan, and a top 2 pick where I can get my quarterback of the future and the second rounder that I just got.
Yep.
So for me, it's almost just, why would I take a second rounder? Why would I force this deal through? Because it would rip the Band-Aid off.
Yep.
We're done. We're not going to go through this slow decline of extending our good players and trying to eke in the Cordell Pattersons of the world. Yeah, Cordell Patterson was amazing. You're not going to get a team MVP for $3 million in the free agent market every year.
Yeah.
If you can, great. Because, Nick, I look at this also. The Locked On Falcons guy, Aaron Freeman, kind of ran through some stuff, and he says, I was able to clear up about 32 million in cap space for the Falcons. That sounds awesome, especially with what they did with, minus 15 last year.
Yeah.
But half of that's going to be eaten up by trying to sign your own free agents. Russell Gage is going to go from 2 to 8 or 9 to 10, possibly. He had a really strong finish this season. He's 26 years old. Okay, Foye Oluokun was 2.2. The NFL's leading tackler should make 5, shouldn't he? I mean, he's in his 20s.
Yeah.
If you're trying to get Josie Jewell $5 million, I can find $5 million for Foye Oluokun on the open market.
Yeah.
Cordell Patterson was at 3. It's going to cost at least 6.
Yep.
So you're talking a third of your available freed up money just to sign the guys that you had last year on a team that was bad.
Yeah, and you also have to wonder about those guys. No offense to them, but were their statistics a bit inflated by the situation? Like somebody's got to make tackles. Somebody's got to get catches. It's still an NFL team. So are you paying them because they were inflated because of the situation, because you didn't have better talent around them to push them down? So that's something you got to consider as well when paying these guys and their statistical output.
Yeah,
so
inside linebackers in a 3-4 should have a ton of tackles.
Yes, they should.
Yeah, yep. They should. That they're the only ones that were making the tackle, and frankly, that's how it should be. Your front 3 guys. an SOB position to play defensive line in a 3-4 because your job is to hold blockers and let the 4 get all the glory. The edges come off for the sacks, the middle linebackers get all the tackles. Your job, and you're well paid for it. I mean, a good 3-4 defensive lineman is going to make 8 figures.
Yep.
But it's a son of a gun of a job. There's not much glory in it because it is made to funnel stuff to the 4 in the 3-4. So they're talking about that. Being said, every move they're saying, okay, we want to have our cake and eat it too. We want to restack our roster while continuing to try and win and get better. I can appreciate that. And I look at the team, and they were 7-10 again, but they were 7-2 in I want to say 1-run games. I got baseball on the mind. In 1-score games. Can you do that again? Can you do that again, or does that come back to the norm where you're closer to 500 in 1-score games? And then can you be more competitive? Are there enough free agents? Let's say I do have $20 million in available cap space after bringing back my guys. I do well in the draft. How much better can this team get where it makes sense that, I can write out Matt Ryan's contract. I can get that $46 million back next year anyway. And maybe I can make a shot at the playoffs this year. We were close this year at 7-8, I think, before the losing the last 3, or 8-9, finishing 17. It could have been 8-9. Anyway, they were in the playoff hunt until about week 16, which was insane.
Yeah, that was I would call 2021 for the Falcons a hollow season, and you touched on it. 7-2 in one possession games. We have data on the stating way back that is something that is not sustainable year to year. It fluctuates wildly, and obviously it's the gambler's fallacy to say, oh, we had a 7-2 last year in it. That means we'll be 2-7 next year. It resets every time. You could be 7-2 and again, but going into it, you're most likely to be about 500 in those situations. So I actually think the Falcons team that picked 5th 2 years ago was a better overall roster than what you had last season, even though you had a worse record. I think the Falcons were again, talk about how it fluctuates. The Falcons 2 years ago had like a crazy good record, leading in the first half and terrible in one possession games. Bounce back the other way this year. So I don't know. I think you're right on that as far as, you were right there and you can sell that to the fans, but anybody who actually watches the team, understands the talent, probably knows that this team is far off. The only thing I have for you in this regard, and I think this is a legitimate sell, is that the NFC South is not very good.
And that's part of it too. And I don't know. There we go. Here's the answer. Mark came in, says, "Good morning, Scott and Nick from Tyler, Texas." This is an age check, honestly, Mark. What is Tyler Tame? Who's a famous football player from Tyler, Texas? Don't look at the chat because I saw the answer.
I think Matthew McConaughey is from Tyler, Texas. That's out of my head.
I think the answer is Mr. Earl Campbell. Mr. Earl Campbell, one of the greatest running backs in the history of the game and one of the poster children for overuse. He was the guy who dealt punishment out. Go have some fun and go type in Earl Campbell highlights to YouTube and watch this guy destroy people. But remember, there's one Earl Campbell and there's 18 to 20 defensive guys hitting him, different ones every week. So there's one Earl Campbell and there are 10 games. There's 200 different people dispersing, taking that punishment. So even though he might only be getting this much of it, he's getting this much of it every time, and he went down quickly. But one of the greatest running backs of all time. And Nick, you've heard me talk about what the number 34 means to me. I'm a child of the 80s. 34 to me was Walter Payton, Herschel Walker, Bo Jackson, Earl Campbell. I'm sure I'm missing somebody too, but those are 4 of the greatest of all time right there. So 34 to me is pretty special.
Wow. Okay. Well, yeah, it's a little bit before my time there, Scott. I feel like my first football memory is the Broncos beating the Chiefs in Arrowhead in 1998. I'd have been pretty young. And I will say I was definitely a Bronco fan early on, but I was infatuated with Sammy Sosa versus Mark McGwire, the home run chase. That's like my first big time sports memory. Like I was obsessed with Mark McGwire.
That was a nice way to come out of the stink of the strike in 94 to kind of rekindle things. It was easier for us in Atlanta because we won the World Series in 95, so we got over pretty quickly.
Yeah.
But yeah, so getting back to this and the comments, what I try and preach to y'all all the time is don't listen to and don't take to heart what you hear, especially the general managers say, because those are the wheelers and dealers. That's their job, is to put themselves in the best position to improve their team, and you don't do that by showing your hands,
Mhm.
which was what made Chris Ballard's comments yesterday for the Indianapolis Colts interesting to me, because he did nothing to stop the speculation that Carson Wentz was going to be gone. I mean, that's about as drastic a comment as you will hear a general manager say in public, is like, yeah, I'm not sold on this guy. We haven't seen it. Yeah,
Yeah.
we're looking. We're looking. I was like, wow, goodness. For a general manager who they have to say nothing. I always tell you, watch what they do. Watch what they do. Every single move the Falcons made last year indicated a rebuild. Every single one.
Yeah.
So, will they get rid of Matt Ryan this year in order to help facilitate a rebound? I don't think so.
Yeah.
I don't think so. I don't think they're there yet. But are they going to go out and try and sign, use all of their available cap money to try and bring in one guy? Let's go get an all-star guard to play left guard. We're that guy away. No, I don't think so either. And Terry Fontenot, to his credit, pretty much said that much. He goes, I don't think we're one player away. We're a big money free agent's going to fix everything we need fixed.
Yeah, no, I agree with you completely. And there's just so many needs on positions that really the only true immediate plug and play fix is through free agency, too. And that you don't have the cap space to do it. Your offensive line, that's a position that typically you have to invest in and then hope 3 years down the road that first round pick at tackle, unless they're a lottery caliber pick, is, developed and good. Pass rushers, defensive tackles, these are positions that very rarely you draft them day one and they are impact players. Rarely. And even those first guys, I mean, it took Myles Garrett a couple years to kind of figure it out. He's still a freak out there, but took him a while to get to this level. So again, I'm with you. Ripping off the band-aid, taking your medicine now. Draft those positions that take time to develop and play those guys. Get those developmental yikes years out of the way early. And then, 2024, you might have something here. You might have a nice little core of some players entering their prime, entering their viable stages of their career. And from there, hopefully your cap is healthy. And big picture, you hope with Fontenot and Arthur Smith still having a little bit of leeway, that is something they could do. The thing that throws a wrench in it for me, and you can probably speak to this more than I can, is that Arthur Blank, a fantastic owner, probably one of the best football owners out there. I mean, everybody just raves about what a good guy he is on top of the owner and all the resources he pours into the team to make sure they can be successful. He's an older guy though. And I don't know if he can live with a longer view picture of the rebuild, like a younger potential owner could.
I think he's okay, and he's had health problems on top of
Yes.
that.
Yep.
God bless him.
Yeah.
I think he's okay with that. I do. I think these guys get 3 years. That was one of the comments I got yesterday, because there was a lot of support for Matt Ryan. I was surprised. It led me to think that the vocal minority is very, very loud for the Matt Ryan haters. I'm like, I get the frustrations with Matt Ryan, but if I'm going down the list of problems that need to be fixed to improve this team, and I'm sorting them by most needed to least needed, it takes me a long time before I get to quarterback, before quarterback becomes the biggest problem I have. So the good thing he said, there's no plug and play guys on there. For the draft. I want to show you something that I did last night, just while I was waiting for a video to render or something. I called this one the I Can Dream, right? I posted this on my Twitter account, the Falcons Twitter account I use, All Falcons ATL. And, I got Sauce Gardner. We were talking about needs in the first with the number 8 pick. I thought he was the best guy available. And then I go down, and with the 40th overall, Devontae Wyatt was available. He might be there at 40. I wouldn't count on it. Travis Jones there again at 58. Yeah, he ain't going to be there at 58. Boye Mafe, edge in the third. Sky Moore at 110. Okay, I got a wide receiver. I need a couple of wide receivers for the Falcons. See, talking about these guys and plug and play, the Falcons were 7-10 last year, and Nick, every single one of these guys, from 1 to Tyreek Woolen down there, helps this team immediately. Every single one I got good news for you. You can take best player available. You don't have to reach. I got bad news for you. You're bad everywhere. You're going to need players at every position. So the core of this team, you got Pitts, Terrell, Matt Ryan, Lindstrom, Grady Jarrett are good. They're really good. It's a solid nucleus. It's just that everybody else around them, because you're pouring so much money into Jake Matthews, Matt Ryan, Grady Jarrett, Deion Jones. The rest of the team is so bad. It's so bad.
Yeah, it totally is. It's luckily though, I will say, if you hit on the quarterback right, you can turn it around quickly. The Bengals this last year showed that turnarounds can happen quickly if you're wise and you keep rolling sixes.
And you spend $300 million in free agency.
Yes, but you also
that's the other thing. It's like, well, look at the Bengals. Well, yeah, we'll look at the Bengals. We are the Bengals. The Atlanta Falcons are the Bengals. This is 2021. So yeah, the 2021 season. We're the 2018 Cincinnati Bengals. We're 3 years away from the Bengals turning around. Yeah, they went from a bad record to a good record, or to a Super Bowl appearance, but they weren't a great team this year. They were 10-7 and got hot at the right time. That's what the playoffs are all about, especially as you keep expanding the playoffs. But they dumped a ton of money, got the number 1 overall pick, came up aces on Jamar Chase, and a ton of money on the defense. So where are you in that cycle if you're the Atlanta Falcons? You're the Jamar Chase pick because you got Kyle Pitts, but you still don't. You probably aren't going to be good enough to take advantage of Matt Ryan's last year's, and you haven't put any money into the team. So again, this is 2018 if you want to use the Cincinnati Bengals comparison.
Yeah, but you have to get the cap right first. And like you mentioned, take your medicine. They got lucky. They got the first overall pick in a draft where they actually had a viable franchise-altering quarterback. That's not a guarantee. If the Broncos had the number 1 pick overall this year, it would be a little bit of a bummer because you'd be paying a lot of money for somebody who, in last year's draft, probably would have been going in that 12 to 15 range. So got to get the right draft class. I think next year's a good year to get a quarterback. Also, you have to get that cap right. That's a big thing as well. Everybody's like, oh, the cap doesn't exist. The cap doesn't exist. At some point, you're just charging everything on a credit card.
Yeah, it does. It doesn't exist until it does.
Yes.
And it does. And see, it didn't exist in 2016, when the Falcons were putting all that money on the down the line. We'll worry about it. It exists now. The bills have come due.
Yep.
So love Matt. Roderick says, but we can't afford him. He's not achieving anything with us. You can afford him if everything else was better. And to what Dave is saying, but I get that. It's just, we have trolls, but I think it's unfair to label some who have a problem with Matt's huge cap number as haters. But the key on that one, Dave, is like, it's not his fault. His huge dead cap number is because he's actually pushed money away. He's restructured and taken money. And I don't blame a player for taking the money that is offered to him. What's he supposed to say? Say no? He hasn't held out that I know of. He hasn't done any of those things. He's done things the right way in his career. And I get that too. I have said I would take a bag of chips for Matt Ryan if it meant I could have his cap number back. I would. And I like Matt Ryan. I think he's done a really great job for the Falcons. And like I just said, I don't think he's the worst problem. But I'd rather have $50 million in available cap money than Matt Ryan right now. Yeah. It would be much better off for this team. So there again, like you say on here, you can not want Matt Ryan on the team and still like Matt Ryan. That's kind of where I am with this. Is I want Matt Ryan to enjoy his last couple of years. I think putting $50 million into a quarterback on a roster this bad, who's 37 years old, is dumb.
Yeah,
I don't get it. Albert says, how much cap space the Falcons have? Right now, they're at minus 6.6 million. Minus 6.6 million. And that doesn't count any of the free agents they have to sign or their draft. Yeah. I think they will get about 11.5 in relief from Calvin Ridley. I don't think he will ever play another down for the Atlanta Falcons, and someone else will pick up that guaranteed contract of his, which that'll help. They'll try and extend or restructure the Jake Matthews of the world. They probably have to do an extension because his dead cap number is just as big as his salary. Same with Deion Jones. They might be able to move him and save a little money. But there's not a ton of options up there. Grady Jarrett has 1 year left on his deal. An extension for him could free up significant space, significant for the Falcons when you're $6 million over. So that's where you can see. So again, but looking, you've heard me talk, Nick, and again, look at the numbers next to this. The PFF grades. I might need to zoom in just a little bit more.
Where they had them ranked?
Yeah, the PF
Yeah.
Big Board where it says they were ranked. I think that's closer to where they will actually go. I'm not getting Boye Mafe in the third.
No,
But there
unless
are
he does
guys that
something
might
terrible.
fall to the third that I can use. A Kingsley Enagbare out of South Carolina. He
Yep.
might fall to the third.
Yep.
I might be able to get a John Ridgeway, defense, a nose guard, 330 pounds out of Arkansas, a nose guard, who would be an immediate upgrade over the Hammond-Eggers that were playing nose guard for the Falcons last year.
Yep.
Ahmad Gardner, yes, plug him across AJ Terrell, and all of a sudden my front seven has a little bit more time.
You can blitz a little bit more too.
I like this guy, and you got to get a receiver out of this. I want a receiver in that 58, 72, 110 spot. Would be pretty solid. You're going to need at least one more receiver as well.
I will say the pick here on this board that I think is the most unrealistic as far as where you got him is probably Tariq Woolen, because he is going to test like a freak at 6'3" and pick 186. He's more likely to go pick. I think he's more likely to go in the second round than he is to fall to day 3.
Someone asked me about that. I think it was a Broncos fan, actually, because you retweeted it. Asked me, he's like, why would you get 2 big corners? I'm like, because I got Tariq Woolen in the 6th round.
Yeah. Like that
I'm like, this isn't about going after another corner. This is about a guy who is on the board in this simulation that won't make it out of the second round. You got to take.
Yep.
You got to take. So, yeah, this would be the dream. That's why I label this one. I can dream, can't I? Every single one of these guys, too, because Mike Davis isn't back. Don't have a running back.
Yeah.
So Mike Davis might be back. He might not be back. I'm not holding my breath. But if I look at that, Gardner starts, Devontae Wyatt starts, Travis Jones starts, Boye Mafe starts, Sky Moore starts, James Cook starts, Tariq Woolen probably starts as a nickel.
I don't think he can
really young
play
team.
nickel. I don't think he can. I don't think he can play nickel. I think he needs the sideline. He's
find a spot for him is which is my point. As a third corner.
Yes.
He'd be your third best corner.
Yes. Okay. I'm in on that one. He's a little
bit.
That
to me is, again, looking at this draft. It is a deep draft. It's not that deep. You're not going to get those guys there, but there are players. The Falcons are in a good spot. And then if you get at least a second rounder for Ridley, you're going to get another guy who can come in and make an immediate impact and improve this team.
Yep, 100%. And honestly, if the Broncos keep, Aaron Rodgers off the table, Kirk Cousins not being moved, Russell Wilson's not being moved, Deshaun Watson sounds like once all the sexual assault allegations came out for him, if he was a non-starter for the Broncos, maybe some other teams wouldn't care about that. Hello, Washington Commanders. But the Broncos might care. So, I mean, honestly, I think I would be interested in Matt Ryan in Denver for one of Denver's second round picks, and maybe a future 2023 pick as well. I know that some Bronco fans will roll their eyes at that, but Matt Ryan's best seasons came in this West Coast variant of the offense, and almost all of these West Coast offense quarterbacks, the best quarterbacks that have been in this system have been the veterans who have been brought up in other systems and are more cerebral, so they can hit other reads that they're beyond the West Coast system. It's not that, the checkdown's here, but I know that based on this coverage, my read on the opposite side of the field is going to be open. So I really think if Broncos have the cap space, they have the capital. If the Falcons are picking up the phone, they'd be interested. I'm not giving you 9 for Matt Ryan. If that's what you want, then sorry. But maybe 40, 64. It depends on what the capital is around it. But the Broncos have 3 top 100 picks, and you're not going to probably find better than Matt Ryan on the market.
Yeah, I still think one more year of Matt Ryan, and then let's see. I just think because of that dead cap number of $46.7 million, you roll out there with one more year of Matt Ryan, who is a good quarterback. God bless him. Stay safe out there, and let's try not to get him killed. Because he's been hit more than any other quarterback in the last 4 years than anybody in the NFL.
Do you think he would restructure his contract to lower the dead cap to get out of there? Maybe a little bit. I don't know if you can even do that, but
I was gonna say I'm not sure how that works, or if the NFLPA, the Players Association, frowns on that. It's like, you're not giving back money, dude.
I mean, the other thing is how about you don't frown on helping a player out in a situation that's been a steward of the game for a long time and never done anything wrong
Yeah.
in his life,
And,
and
and you know,
not let him get killed in Atlanta.
and Matt Ryan has actually been fairly scheme resistant. If you look
Yeah.
through his numbers through the years, they're pretty damn consistent. I mean, he's throwing for 4,500 yards and 25 touchdowns, about 10 interceptions, no matter who he's got. He's got with the weapons that the Denver Broncos would have, that'd be a good fit. And that was actually one of the biggest stories I wrote last year. It was,
Yeah.
Bleacher Report talked about sending Drew Lock and a first to Atlanta for Matt Ryan. I'm like, well, that won't happen this year, but next year that actually makes some sense. And here's why. That actually makes some sense. But I still think we're one more year away from any flexibility with Matt Ryan, because then his cap number, you can knock it down to $7 million on his dead cap number across 2 seasons instead of, at best this year, it'd be $23 million. Man, what would be worse than losing Matt Ryan, getting nothing in return, and having a $23 million dead cap hit this year? Having a $23 million dead cap hit on his contract next year too.
Yeah.
That would be worse. That would be worse for me.
Again, I just say take your medicine and figure it out. And if you're gonna suck, I think 2022 is the year to suck, because this upcoming
I do
draft class
too.
looks good.
Because the Falcons are going to have about if you moved on from Matt Ryan in 2023, you got about 150 million in cap room, and you're going to have your quarterback. You're going to be bad enough where I can make somebody a deal where I can go, if I'm not in the top 3, the top 2 really is going to take the top 2, because franchise quarterbacks go ahead of defensive ends no matter how much you love Will Anderson. If those are the guys, the quarterbacks will go first.
And honestly, you know what? Walking away, you need your quarterback, but walking away with Will Anderson would not be a disappointment, man. He is unbelievable. I mean, he's unbelievable. Also, next year's quarterback crop, not to Scott always kind of his eyes start to glaze over, and I'm already talking 2023, but it's beyond Bryce Young and CJ Stroud as well. I'm really interested in Antonio Richardson at Florida. He's a dynamic athlete. Tyler Van Dyke at Miami is really, really fun to watch. I love Jaren Hall.
I watched a little bit of Florida, and was he hurt or something?
Yes.
Because what I watched of Florida, whoever was there couldn't play a lick. He was horrendous.
He was hurt. He got dinged up. He's a former.
I'm like, that better not be the guy. I'll need to find him. There's somebody that played in their bowl game. I'm like, how does Florida end up with a guy like this? He's awful.
No, he was injured. He's a dynamic athlete, though, and a lot of arm talent and natural ability that's needs to stay healthy, but a lot of fun. Tyler Van Dyke intrigues me a heck of a lot. Also, he's a little bit older, but the twitchiness, the arm elasticity, the ability to throw off platforms. Jaren Hall at BYU. He's one. But my favorite game last year that I watched was, without a doubt, which is crazy to say, but it was Virginia at BYU. Brennan Armstrong versus Jaren Hall it was like a 70-60 barn burner, and these guys, nobody could stop him. It was incredible. I don't really like Brennan Armstrong's release. I didn't list him, but there's some quarterbacks in next year's class.
We got about 10 likes on Facebook, y'all. So appreciate you hitting that button and hit it on. Make sure you hit that like, share, and subscribe button if you're watching on YouTube and after the fact. It is a big help for all of us. We got about 5 more minutes here before we got to go. So make sure you get in any of those last minute questions. But I like some of the comments coming in here. It says we got one more year of Matt Ryan, then we move on from Matty, from him. So maybe, the cap number doesn't work. That's the problem, because his salary for 2023 is also in the upper echelons of 46 million. So his dead cap number makes him expendable. That's where he's got to start looking, okay, where do I need to be? Because when his dead cap number drops from 46 to 15, you're not keeping a $46 million quarterback like this when, you're picking in the top 10. Yeah. So then you're moving on. But if you could restructure or extend or, voidable years in the back, having him 2 more years, 2022 and 2023, with a younger quarterback underneath him would be a perfect transition, because Matt Ryan, he works with his fellow quarterbacks spectacularly. He's had several come in. He's just been very confident. The guys that are bitter with their the internal competition, those are the ones that are insecure. Matt Ryan has been confident and been a great leader for this team, and having CJ Stroud, Bryce Young come in and play for a year with Matt Ryan would be great. It'd be great.
Yep.
But not at $50 million. I don't need him. I'll cut his ass and give him $10 million to be a quarterback coach.
Yeah, I know that the talk of surrounding Broncos country though right now, coming out of the combine directly with some people who are there that I've been speaking with, is starting to think of some other veterans outside of the big names that might be available in the trade market for Denver to pursue. Matt Ryan really, really, really lines up if the Falcons are willing to pick up the phone, but we'll
It's
see.
funny because Nick, the talk I was getting was like, no, hell no, we're not getting. We should get the same deal that we got for that Detroit got for Matt Stafford. I'm like, guys, Matt Stafford's 3 years younger, and he's, I didn't want to put it out there right in there, but he is. He's better.
He's much more dynamic. He's
Matt
much more
Stafford,
dynamic.
it's different. You can't really tell with Detroit, but I'm like, I'm not judging Matt Stafford in Detroit any more than he didn't win anything in Detroit. Well, neither did Calvin Johnson. Neither did Barry Sanders. You're going to tell me that those guys weren't two of the all-time greats? It's Detroit.
Yeah.
That's what people used to say about the Falcons. The young Falcons fans don't know what it used to be like to be an Atlanta Falcons fan. 4 losing years in a row was normal.
Yeah.
So that's what Detroit is. I'm not blaming anybody for not having success with the Jets, with the Lions, with the Jaguars. Come on, man.
Yeah, Matt
Luke
Stafford
comes in, he says, "What do you think of Bo Nixon?" Bo Nixon is a very good athlete. He's an erratic as hell quarterback.
Isn't it Bo Nix?
Bo Nix, yeah. That's
Okay.
why I was like, wait a minute. I was like, Pat Nixon, because I went to college with his dad. His dad was a very different, actually. He was almost a polar opposite of Bo. Pat was the no tools, cerebral, good leader, get some nice wins, quarterback manager, where Bo has the big arm. He's bigger than his dad, great runner. Pat was a better quarterback.
Yeah.
Bo might be great up in Oregon, up at that offense. But the phrase we like to use for guys that have a lot of tools but can't get it done is coach killer. And Bo's in that category right now.
Yeah. He's we'll see what happens. I think he transferred to Oregon, right? It was Oregon or
I
Washington.
think that's right.
Washington State had a transfer quarterback that I'm very intrigued with as well. So coming from very small school. So we'll see. I'm already looking forward to 2023 quarterbacks. Yeah, no, but Bo Nix, he'll be fun. Maybe I'll get a chance to go see him this year. I need to make the drive down to Outson Stadium while I'm out here. I haven't gone to Husky Stadium yet, and that one's beautiful. The yacht gating pulling up on Lake Washington with the views of the Cascades and Mount Rainier. It looks like a beautiful stadium, and I don't think there is people are jumping over themselves for tickets like you had to at Kinnick at Iowa.
Yeah, I think that'd be very similar to the Vol Navy. The Vol Navy is one of the coolest experiences I've ever had, is going to a game at the University of Tennessee with a friend of mine who came from old money and, going up on his parents' big ass yacht. They got yachts on the river.
Yep.
His 100-foot yacht and pulling up next to, was it Calhoun's on the river and spending the night out there. Yeah, that was a good time.
Oh, God,
that was a good time. So not a big fan of the stadium, though, because Tennessee's idea of expanding the stadium from 95,000 to 100,000 is taking the seats and making them smaller.
Yeah.
So they're just bleacher seats. Instead of 18 inches, we're going to make them 14 inches. We just expanded the stadium. So
it's too bad because butts are getting wider, I think.
Because we know all that tailgating, food, and beer drinking is great for making us more fit.
Yeah, God. But yeah, no, it'll be great. I know that you got to get out of here pretty soon. I did want to announce, maybe I'm pulling the rug out from under you here, but we are going to do a live show on Friday as well on this channel. So make sure you guys are back. Also, Jeremy, I take exception to that. There's nothing else to do in Iowa. You're right to a fault, but fall in Iowa is gorgeous, and to give up a Saturday during that time of year that's a big ask. It's also hunting season, so if it was, there's nothing really to do in Iowa from December to March. But
that's why I always laugh at people that think there was a worse rivalry out there than Auburn and Alabama. I'm like, Michigan, Ohio State. I'm like, no, Michigan has Detroit Lions, Detroit Pistons, Detroit Tigers, Detroit Red Wings, et cetera, et cetera. In Alabama, there's nothing to do else there except hate each other. Maybe you'll bond over the Braves, but there's no common ground there. And I've got to get going. And yes, we will be here Friday, because Combine, we got numbers coming in for sure. So we're going to be doing some Combine reacts on Friday. And and Ethan coming in to close us out. Appreciate you, Ethan and Mark and Dave, with your supers and your support today. If the Falcons go full rebuild, might as well get what you can for Ryan and Jarrett. Each save some money and you get draft picks. Jarrett would actually save $16.5 million this year. I don't think they have the stomach to do it. I don't. I think there's enough Falcons fans out there that think this is actually close to being a playoff caliber team or should be a playoff caliber team, that I don't think they've got the stomach to do that. I think they'd have the backing from Arthur Blank to tank. I mean rebuild, tank, rebuild. Yeah, I think they'd have the backing to say, okay, listen, this is the plan. We're gonna get a couple premium picks, and we're gonna have $200 million in 2023. Whew, for guys like Nick and I, that sounds awfully tempting.
Yeah. Yes, it does. Yes, it does. Yeah, we'll see what happens. We'll see how it plays out. I am really excited to see how all the measurements come in today. I think it's what is it, wide receivers and quarterbacks for measurements today?
I looked at it and then I kind of went away from it. So we will see. Again, my schedule's one at a time, and right now
Yeah.
I've got to get going. But we will be back on Friday. We'll be back Thursday, so we'll be talking on Mile High Huddle on the Mile High Huddle YouTube on Broncos for Breakfast. We'll be having some reacts, but then we'll be back on here on Friday morning, 9:30 Eastern, for a Forging the Falcons Combine React show. And we'll hope you'll join us. Until then, again, like I said, thank you to everybody for being here. Special thanks to Dave, to Mark Schrader, to Ethan for coming in with some super chats and support. And we will see you next time.